All right. Hey, Miss Jamie.
Hello.
Hey, guys. So today we want to talk about our belt tests. A lot of people have been asking a lot of questions about those. A lot of people who haven't trained here before don't know what a belt test is, and so we're going to kind of go through that. Miss Jamie has a list of our most frequently asked questions, and so we're going to start at the very beginning with...
Well, the most basic is, what is a belt test?
So a belt test is a skills and knowledge exam. Our goal here is to see if the children and the adult students have retained the knowledge that we've been putting into them for the last little while, and see if they're ready to go ahead and move on to more advanced information.
Okay, so here's a list of your belt ranks.
Yep.
According to BJMA.
So different schools have different belt ranks. In our school, these are the ones that we use until, of course, you get to black belt. We start with white belt. Everybody begins with a white belt, and then we go to yellow, and then orange, and then purple, and then green, and then blue, red, and then red-black, which is the step right before black belt. And that one's kind of cool because you reach a certain point where we get to flip that one over, where you wear the black on the top and the red on the bottom. And then for our black belt, we have a much more extensive test, and that's a pretty big deal to make it to black belt.
Yep. All right, so that's the order. Fantastic. All right, so second question is, how often are the tests available?
So tests, we try to test about every 3 months. That's what our schedule is. Sometimes we have to move those forward or back depending on a holiday or something like that. Or if we have, inclement weather or something like that, we'll move a test, but generally every 3 months.
Okay, and that's our formal test. And then we have something in between the formal tests, which are called?
Challenge days. So if you feel like you are ahead of schedule, or maybe if you've missed the last test and you weren't able to make it to that, because if you were out of town or something, then you can choose to do what we call challenging the belt. And that is an opportunity in a regular class to advance. Basically, you'll be run through all of your normal stuff. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, more in detail.
Yep, awesome. Okay, so on to the next one. How do I know if I'm ready to belt test?
When the instructor says you are ready, you are ready. I'm just kidding. Okay.
And besides that,
so each belt rank has an assigned checklist, and in that checklist, you'll see all of the skills that you need to be able to perform proficiently in order to pass your test. Now, a test is not just about the skills that are on that sheet. A lot of it has to do with your attitude and your physical capabilities, but if you've gone through all of those check boxes on your list and you can do all of those things without help, then you're probably getting pretty close.
So where am I going to find that paper if I've lost the paper that you printed out for me?
Aha, so if you've lost the paper, you can always come and ask us for a new one, but you can also look online at our student resources section, and there is a segment in there that has all of those for whatever belt rank. So if you wanted to go, if you were a orange belt going to purple, then you can go and click on the purple belt information, and there would be a list of those in there, a list of all those items in there, and you can look at them.
Okay, so can I just decide that I'm ready to belt test and show up on a Saturday and do it?
No, I'm afraid not. That's not exactly how it works.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that all of our students have the opportunity to succeed. So we do what's called a pre-test. And we've used different terminology from that in the past, and so sometimes I say the wrong thing.
It's a pre-test.
But a pre-test, and that happens usually a week to a week and a half before the formal test, where we try to go through most of your material in class, and then the instructors who are part of that class will make a decision on whether you're ready to go ahead and test. And if you are, at the end of your class, your pre-test class, they will put a little black stripe on the end of your belt. And that black stripe is like your ticket to test. Your name will be written down, and you can tell us, yes, I am coming to the test, no, I can't make it, etc. But once you have that black stripe, you kind of have permission to test at that point.
So if I earn my black stripe on my belt, am I for sure going to pass the formal belt test the next week?
I make no promises. So a belt test is about 70% attitude, and the other 30% is skill. Not because the skills aren't important, but because by the time you reach your belt test and you get that black stripe, we pretty much already know if you have the skills to pass. When you come into a belt test, it's really, really important that you have spent a lot of time practicing, and it's really important that you come in with the right attitude. So if you come in ready to work hard and ready to earn that belt, and ready to push through when things get tough, and use those tenets of Taekwondo that we talk about all the time, then the likelihood is that you're probably going to pass. However, if you come in with a poor attitude, or with the attitude that, oh, I've already done all this stuff and I don't really need to work hard, I just need to kind of muddle my way through it, you're probably not going to pass, because we can see that up here as the instructors.
And sometimes kids get nervous and, you know, that's anxiety.
That's true.
There's all kinds of things.
There can be anxiety. Yeah, it is very formal. It's very different than our normal classes. And that's part of the exam, because we want to do something called stress inoculation, where you have to perform those techniques under a stressful environment, so that when you really do have to use them in a real self-defense scenario, or if you're dealing with the more competition-based techniques, if you have to deal with them in a high-level competition, you're able to perform without pausing, without blanking.
Right. So if you do have a question about where those dates fall on the calendar, we have, everyone should have been emailed a calendar, handed out a copy in class, but I am happy to get you another one, and that has all of our belt test dates listed, and also our Challenge the Belt dates listed, and our pre-test dates. So always feel free to contact us if you have any questions of where those are falling in the different months. So, okay, let's double back to the Challenge the Belt days. So what, you already kind of talked about what are Challenge the Belt days. It's less formal, but expound on that a little bit.
So a belt challenge day is a normal class, okay? In that you come into your regular class time. You do have to sign up for these in advance. So a week in advance, we'll say, hey, we're doing a belt challenge next Friday or whatever day your normal class is, and do you want to test? And so you can choose to then challenge for your belt. Basically what that means is you're going to be run through all of your material, but in a less formal way, and with maybe some less intensity, depending on the technique. You're going to be run through most, if not all, of your material, and then if you do all of that satisfactorily, if you're able to perform all of that with a high level of proficiency, then you will be given the opportunity to break your board, which is kind of what we usually finish our formal belt tests with. And if you break your board at the end of that class, then you'll be given your belt, and you will have that rank.
Okay. So if I'm not challenging the belt that day in class, do I still get to come to class?
Absolutely.
Should I still come?
You should come to class, because that's an excellent opportunity for you to see all of the material and to try all of the things that are on your checklist and see if there are things that you need to work on. I've actually had students who have come in not planning to test, and I've come very, very close to going ahead and giving them a belt because they knew all of their material. So it is possible for that to happen, but what you should come in with the attitude of doing your best on the material that you know, and then learning what else you need to work on.
So the Challenge the Belt days are still like our formal test days in that you need to be there early, to be on time.
Absolutely.
And have your water bottle in the test prep mode, because it is more formal than a regular class, and you just need to be ready to boom, 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 walk through your material, because it's a faster paced version of and shorter version of our regular belt test.
Mm-hmm. And it is very important that you arrive on time for that. Oftentimes, if you arrive late for that challenge, we don't have time to go over everything that you missed, and so you won't be able to complete that belt challenge that day. It's
not like a regular class where you just hop into the warm-up and start where you're at, because as soon as he calls start to the class, the test has begun, just like in our belt tests. So back to people that would be not challenging the belt that day, they're allowed to ask questions and receive extra assistance, because usually there's an assistant instructor, and if they have a question about a certain technique that they're trying to master, then they can go off to the side and practice that, which is awesome, which is another reason why you should really show up on the Challenge Belt days to get extra
time.
Help. Yeah. So awesome. Okay. So it says, well, everyone's allowed to challenge the belt because it is a little different. With our formal tests, you have to complete and qualify during the pre-test the week before.
Right.
But if you want to challenge the belt, you do have to sign up, but anyone is allowed to sign up regardless of if we think they're ready or not. However, we encourage students to discuss it with their instructor and their parents, if applicable, before signing up. So, you know, we try to avoid doing a test situation and then being disappointed because we weren't quite there yet.
Right. It's really important to us that all of our students have the opportunity to succeed. Now, sometimes not passing a test can be a good learning experience as well. I've been through that myself, and it's not pleasant, but it's definitely a good motivator. However, we don't want that to be a common experience, so we would rather you guys come to us and have a chat with me as the instructor, or Miss Grace, or one of the other assistant instructors, and say, hey, do you think I'm ready? And if we don't think you're ready, then we'll let you know that, and we're not going to be like, oh, you're not ready, you're terrible. We're going to give you some good positive feedback, okay? And say, hey, you know what? These are some things that you could work on, and you might want to wait just a little bit longer because we want you to succeed.
Yep. Okay, so moving on. Does it cost to belt test?
Yes, it does. So as much as we would like to be able to do that for free, it does. There are costs associated with it from our end as a business, and it does consume a considerable amount of our time in preparation and whatnot. So there are some minimal costs for this, and they are as...
Yep, and we do try to keep these low. They just cover our materials and the time. So there's our belt ranks again, and this is applicable to 2021. So it's kind of subject to change if it needs to change. Lumber is crazy high right now.
Yeah, the boards are not cheap right now. So
if you're going for your yellow belt, the test fee is $10. Anything orange through green is $15. And then as we get higher up, blue through red, black is $20. And then $150 for your black belt. That's a multiple hours, super intense thing.
Yeah, so that's kind of a big deal, and you have to apply for the opportunity to test. There's a whole big process involved in that. So that's a whole another deal that maybe we'll make another video on at some point.
So this pricing structure is the same for formal belt tests and for Challenge the Belt days.
Absolutely.
This is also available in our policies, which everybody has an email copy and a hard copy of. If you need to refer back to that, you can also email me if you forget how much that is.
Yep, and we're always willing to give you a new copy of that policies document. One other quick thing on that, that payment is due prior to the test. So if you come in the day of the test and aren't able to pay that, we can't do the test that day.
Basically, you check in with me at the front desk, and as long as, everybody's got a card on file, and so I just charge your card. And it's real nice and easy, or you can do cash. Either way is fine.
We try to make it pretty easy.
Yep. So about that though, if I pay to test and I don't pass the test, do I still have to pay when I retest the next time?
Yes, unfortunately you do. So while the test fee covers some of the materials that we might be able to reuse again later, it does not cover our time or the facility fee or anything like that. So that fee is required. We do try to prevent people having to pay twice for testing. So that's another great reason to come ask us if you are ready for your test. Instead of choosing to challenge whenever you haven't been training for very long or something like that, because that way it kind of prevents you having to pay twice.
Well, and that's also why you have to qualify to do a formal test. We want to make sure that you are at least capable of passing the test before entering into that.
Absolutely.
Yep. Always want our students to succeed.
Yes, we do.
All right. Getting down here to the end here. If I have a question about belt testing, when is the right time to ask about that? That can be kind of confusing because we're really busy with classes and going on to the next class and coming early and stuff. So when's the best time?
If you have a question about the logistics of testing, like when should I arrive, that sort of thing, you're always free to give us an email or a text or a call or something like that. or check with Miss Jamie at the front desk. However, if you're asking a question about maybe some of the material on the test, then come in a few minutes early before class, or stick around a few minutes after class and ask one of the instructors or assistant instructors.
Yep. And then we also have lots of video demos of all the skills in our Student Access Center on our website. Everybody should have the password for that, and so many of those videos can actually cover the questions that you have if you haven't taken a chance to look at that yet. So, yep. All right, last question. What if I need more help getting ready to belt test?
So this is pretty common actually, and we do our best to make sure that we provide an opportunity for you to get that help. So usually the week or 2 weeks before the test, we set up some testing prep lessons, private lessons, where you can come in for a discounted rate. They're a little bit shorter and a little bit cheaper than our normal private lessons. And you can come in and kind of hit the high points, the stuff that you really need to work on, and work with me specifically on getting those things ready for the test.
Yep.
And we do highly recommend those. We have a much higher success rate for those people who come in for those.
Get some one-on-one individualized instruction.
Yeah, it's hard to get that detailed instruction when there's 15, 20 people in class. But when you can get that 30 minutes with an instructor just to yourself, you can say, okay, I can kind of do this, but I don't really understand it, or something like that. And we can sit there and really drill down and get your skill up to that high level.
Yep. All right, those are all the questions I have. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to contact us at any time. And
yep.
I hope that we've covered the majority of what we've got.
Excellent. So thank you guys for watching this video, and we look forward to helping you all achieve your black belt someday.
Yep.
Bye.